What's up, everybody? A long time no see. Sorry about that. It's been kind of a hectic, however long it's been now. And then I took some me time. Went to school for many months in a row, and summer started, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a little break. I wanted to come back. I actually have been planning on doing this for a while. I was gonna do a recap video of the big three for men last year, basketball, football, and baseball, and then we were gonna start another video doing a look ahead. And I woke up this morning and was like, okay, I got to get this video out, but also I have to talk about Twitter first. I absolutely have to talk about Twitter. So for those of you who don't know, and you're not a part of Texas Tech Twitter, please join it immediately. Welcome to the most rabid Texas Tech fan base group. So to condense it down, for a lot of reasons, TCU decided they wanted that smoke against Texas Tech on Twitter, and it went poorly for them, needless to say. I will say there's one thing about Texas Tech that I take away from this more than anything, and that is that I don't think there is another school that gets as involved, especially on Twitter. I mean, if you go scrolling through, you'll see like the Dean of Students official Twitter account, Mrs. Chauvinek, both Joey McGuire and his wife, pretty much every Texas Tech football player. I saw, official Texas Tech Twitters getting in on the cactus emoji, that I think may be a thing for a while for Texas Tech. So if you don't know, just hop on Twitter, look up anything Texas Tech football related, and you will quickly find it. As far as a look back, we'll start with football. Last year was an emotional roller coaster. I really can't think of another way to describe it. We started out the season really strong, went to UT, got smoked, and that was, I don't want to say it just destroyed all the momentum I felt like we had as a fan base, right? We played Houston. I thought that was going to be a really tough game. It was a really tough game, but we won. Right, it was massively successful in that way, and I was really excited for that, just because I kind of expected us to lose that game, in some ways, right? Like you were kind of like, man, I really hope we don't lose this game, but it is really possible for us to lose this game, and so excuse me. So we didn't, though. We won, and it was a bit of a shock. I think for most of us that we actually won that game, and then we move on. We end up going to UT. Got smoked. We did beat SFA and we did beat FIU. SFA was much closer than it should have been. But we blew out FIU. Then we go to Texas, get absolutely cooked. And then we go to West Virginia and beat West Virginia. And I was like, man, West Virginia's a tough place to win. And I was like, man, is this team actually going to turn it around? So at that point in the season, we're 4-1. And I'm like, dude, this is amazing. And then we lose to TCU. Not only do we lose, we got kind of trounced by TCU. At home, no less. TCU had a good squad. I felt like we were going to be up and down. I thought that would be a much closer game anyway. It was not. But then we stomped on Kansas, like you should. And then I was looking, at that point, I remember looking ahead and said, we have to win this next game because we play Kansas State, and then we went on a run of Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. And I genuinely thought, because at that point, Iowa State, I don't believe they were ranked when we got to this, right before the Kansas State game, but they had been ranked, and they had been playing very well. So, not a game that you want to have to win. We played Oklahoma at Oklahoma, we had Oklahoma State at home, and we had played Baylor at Baylor, and I was like, listen, these are all going to be really tough games. Like, of the four we had, so long story short, we lost Kansas State, heartbreaking loss by 1 point, And I was like, we may not make a bowl game after that. After being 4-1, we may not make a bowl game. Then we get to 5. We get the 5th win. We're like, we need one more win. We may not make a bowl game. We got beat up by Oklahoma in Oklahoma. Kind of expected that. Not super surprised. And then Jonathan Garibay with a 62-yard field goal. Longest game-winning field goal in NCAA history, if I remember correctly. Wins it. Massive for us. Of course, we lost to Baylor, lost to Oklahoma State. We did play a heck of a game against Baylor. I was very impressed with that team. And I was really impressed with the job Sonny Cumbie did of getting this team into, it was the pump jack mentality. That's when pump jack mentality came a thing, when he took over. And, in the words of Sonny Cumbie, I guess a Red Raider gets a Pirate after all. So football ended on a high note. We got to a bowl game. That was huge. We won said bowl game. That was huge. We won said bowl game against the Pirate, excising hopefully all demons at that point. So huge success for Texas Tech football, I think, comparatively to the way the year started. And let's not forget, we changed coaches like midway through the season. And our offensive coordinator took over and really just pushed this team to a new level. So there we go. Football ended on a high note. We move into basketball. Everybody's excited. Of course, everybody was excited. You know what? We're going to start with the game. We're going to start with the February 13th? 19th. February 19th game. Beard came back to Lubbock. And, he said they're going to sell a lot of tickets to that game. And they did. And there were a lot of people that went to that game. There were a lot of people that didn't get into that game. That was nuts. And the atmosphere in that building was absolutely insane. And we won. We beat them. And Texas Tech basketball had a really massive year. I think it's kind of worth noting how big of a year they really had because, you're talking about a team here that in the Big 12, right? Kansas, Baylor, Texas Tech. Those are the top 4 teams in the Big 12. Those are the teams that you expect to be good in the Big 12. And we were. We played, we played very, very well. We beat Kansas at Texas Tech. We lost Kansas in Kansas, but we lost by 3 points in, I believe it was overtime or double overtime. Very close game. Played them very well. Beat Baylor and at Texas Tech, and beat University of Texas at Tech and at Texas. And so that was huge. You're talking about, of the top 4, you got to play, the other 3, you got to play them twice. Once at home, once on the road. We beat them, of those 6 games, we won 5 of them. And that was huge. There were some stumbles. We didn't play well against OU. It seemed to be a bit of an Achilles heel for good Texas Tech teams this year. I think that we'll get to that in baseball as well. Then you had just some games where we looked a little off. We lost to TCU late in the season. Then, we didn't play great against Kansas State. The next game, I really thought we were going to bounce back. But we get into the tournament. We win. We lost to Kansas in the end. That's right. And I was like, you know what? That's cool. We did beat Iowa State. We did beat Oklahoma. I thought both of those were important wins for us. We would go on to beat Montana State, Notre Dame, and then we would lose eventually by 5 points to Coach Mike Krzyzewski. And I have to admit, I really, not even deep down, I really wanted to be his last loss. Like, I just thought that would be amazing for Mark Adams. But let's not forget, Mark Adams' first season as a head coach in a Division I program with a team that lost a lot of players, and Mark Adams made it to the Sweet 16. That is absolutely spectacular. It's wow. Now, shortly after the season ended, things got really interesting. I don't think any of us were really surprised at how well Mark Adams did. I was surprised at the people that left after Mark Adams, after the season, especially with the success that we had. Kevin McCullough leaving, that one was a shock. Certainly going to Kansas is not ideal, I think, for a lot of reasons. So I think there's certainly some stuff that goes into that. McCullough leaving, I think, was the one that bothered people because, McCullough left to go to Kansas. Terrence Shannon Jr. leaving, not the end of the world. I don't think, I love TJ, don't get me wrong. I think he's a fantastic ball player, really brought a lot of emotion to this program, and I was sad to see him go, but he didn't go to an in-conference rival, so of course I'm going to root for his home, for him to go to, Illinois. He's going to be a fighting Illini. Good luck, man. Kevin McCullough, I hope you lose every conference game this year because that hurts us. Every conference game that Kansas wins hurts Texas Tech. So to say that, you're happy, I guess, that it went that way, you're like, well, not so much, right? But he has reloaded again, Mark Adams has, and I'm really curious to see what happens next year, because it's going to be difficult for, repeating that level of success, even with transfers and things. But we did get Fardaws, and we've got some guys coming in. So, be on the lookout for Texas Tech basketball again. All right, now Texas Tech baseball didn't necessarily end the way that we wanted. It was an up and down season. Early in the season, the offense was really strong, and the pitching was really weak. Later in the season, I felt like it was the exact opposite. The pitching was really strong, and I felt like our offense was really struggling at times. Having said that, an up and down season that ends with a trip to the region, and we ended up losing to Notre Dame. We lost to them twice. Notre Dame would go on to have a pretty good run, in the postseason. So you never like losing, but when you can say, yeah, these guys were pretty good, we lost to a pretty good team, that's not the end of the world, right? Notre Dame was certainly on a bit of a tear, I think. You could reasonably say. I was very impressed with the way that Notre Dame played. I was very impressed with the way that they made it all the way to Omaha. They went to, after beating us, they then had to go to Tennessee. And for those of you who didn't watch any college baseball or didn't know much about it, Tennessee was on a tear all season long. Tennessee looked just nasty, dominant, and Notre Dame went to Knoxville and won 2 of 3. And that's huge. And then they went to Omaha. They only won 1 game in Omaha, but they did beat Texas, so I guess for us that's a dub. So my assessment of the season for Tech baseball was up and down. I was really impressed with how our pitching came on late in the season. Having said that, we've now lost a bunch of pitchers to the MLB draft. Parker Kelly also, I just heard this morning, I believe it was, signed a contract with the Colorado Rockies. So we're losing a lot of pieces. Who knows how we'll be next year? This is the way college sports work, right? Is like year to year you have to recruit, and Tim Tadlock has proven to be a quality recruiter. To the well, depending on who you ask, I thought we were out here in the the South Plains, the High Plains region. But apparently, thanks to, I was educated by the, I believe he's the director of recruiting for TCU, that we live in the desert. So, yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks for that one, bud. So yeah, looking back on last year, lot to be excited about for Texas Tech fans. A lot to look forward to for this next year. You know, the hiring of Joey McGuire in the middle, right when we hired him, was huge. Kirby Hocutt went out and said, look, we got to get a guy who is excited, who's driven, who's determined. And he did. When Hocutt got Mark Adams, obviously that was a great choice. Tim Tadlock, obviously a great choice. So Hocutt is doing everything he can to keep this going in the right direction. So there's your wrap, guys. Solid performances. I would like to see a little bit more out of our football team. And if our baseball team and basketball team can kind of stay in the same echelon of their dominance, I think we are in for a golden age of Texas Tech sports, kind of now. So yeah, keep an eye out. I'm going to be working on a video for a looking ahead to, we're going to start with football. There's a lot to dissect with each sport looking ahead. Kind of a look back is super quick to do. I also just wanted to get this out there, and then I had to throw in the Twitter beef. So if you are on Twitter, just make sure and go through and like anybody who's got a cactus in their name. Obviously, they're a Tech fan. I can't think of any other reason to have a cactus in your Twitter handle. So until next time, guys, we'll see you, and thanks for sticking around.